Today we're here with two esteemed Cardano developers, Adrian, or AF from DEADPXLZ, and co-founder of Spacebudz, founder of Nami wallets, and a lot more, Alessandro Conrad. And first, before we start, we're going to do a little poll for the audience. It's for DEADPXLZ versus Spacebudz. So raise your hand right now if you like DEADPXLZ more than Spacebudz. Okay.
Oh, this is only the audience.
Okay, now Spacebudz, raise your hand.
Ask a wrong question.
Is this how we're starting, Jack?
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and Jenny right now is going to introduce our...
Hello, everybody.
guest.
This is Jenny right here. So I'm going to introduce you to Alessandro Conrad. Alessandro is the co-founder of Spacebudz. Yes. All right. That's a good one. And founder of Berry. Berry is the first pool using Raspberry Pis on Cardano, and is also a lab for a lot of amazing developments, creating tools for the community, such as Nami wallet. There you go. And much recently, the Lucid Library, which we'll probably get more into it if you want to. I would love to talk about it. So without further ado, let's introduce Adrian. Oh, you
this
already
guy.
did, right?
Adrian is actually the founder of one of my first NFT projects that I ever minted, DEADPXLZ. And at the time, there we go.
Suck it.
There you go.
And actually one of the first projects to make something very, very special for a minting service utilizing Nami wallet. So if you haven't seen that, definitely look it up on YouTube. But among other things, Adrian is just very passionate about everything he does. And I love hearing him speak, and hopefully we get to hear him blab on for like 10 minutes today.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
All right, and I guess we'll hop right into the questions. The first question, we're just gonna go right into it, is where do you guys see NFTs in 2040 integrated in your daily life? Either one of you want to respond?
You want to take this?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't
Oh.
fully.
Where do you see NFTs integrated in your daily life in the year 2040?
In my daily life, I would say, I could imagine that we use NFTs for pretty much everything when it comes to authentication and stuff like that. Key to your house, your car, anything you want to. And of course, like everything digitally, like art, music, media in general. Yeah, so this is where I see NFTs. I see them also as a way to create communities, and yeah. You want to extend?
What about you, Adrian?
Well, I mean, it's definitely, like, I completely agree with you, Alessandro. It's definitely going to be a big part of our lives if, like, the entire blockchain thing goes, insanely mainstream. NFTs are going to be playing a huge, huge role in everyday life. But the concept itself is very simple. So I guess they will be definitely tying into proof of ownership, proof of identity, proof of like anything, literally. You can find various applications for it. You can go from like, I don't know, online accounts, emails, gaming, anything that can be tied into your unique identity can be sort of like NFT-advised in a way. So yeah, it's definitely going to be playing a huge role in our everyday lives.
You mentioned gaming. Is there any idea you can expand on with how NFTs specifically on Cardano, maybe your project or whatever else, are interested in gaming, and how a normal person who plays normal games would benefit from it?
Well, I feel like people shouldn't necessarily be aware of the fact that the technology which they're running their game on has to do with blockchain. I think that a lot of people should be just seamlessly using it in day-to-day as they are now, as they're using today's Web 2 technology. They don't know that if the server of the game that they're playing is hosted on Amazon or Google or anything like that, as they shouldn't know that the game they're playing on has to do with Cardano, for example. So at the end of the day, for the end user, it doesn't really matter which blockchain it is. It just matters that we create a seamless experience and we're among the first to create a seamless experience for the user to adopt. And also, obviously, it has to do with costs. So if you look at it from a business perspective, then obviously, if you move a game onto a blockchain, right now, you know, you need to analyze how much it'll cost you as a company versus hosting it on Amazon, for example, on Amazon Web Servers, right? There's that, and there's also the reliability of a blockchain weighed against that. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself, do we care about whether we're you know, playing a game which is on-chain or not as end users, right? And the answer should be, no one should care. It should be seamless, you know? That's it.
Alessandro, do you have anything to say about what AF said?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think we sometimes, of course, because blockchain is so new to us, but I think we maybe try too hard and over-tokenize sometimes and try to bring like too much value in some way that it's like completely unnecessary when we forget what we actually wanted to build. So yeah, it's just blockchain has a use case, but the whole project doesn't need to be necessarily only blockchain. It could be everything, and blockchain is just one part of it. It makes certain things much more efficient, like proving ownership and stuff like that. But it could be connected to much more stuff, and yeah, that's like what we should focus on, what we should do to bring a really great user experience.
Well, that's great. I have a question for you, because some of the most memorable drops that we've had in Cardano have been the Spacebudz drop, where we didn't even know that we could have NFTs yet. And there we had this amazing experience where you send money to your wallet and you get this spaceship, and your token will reveal. And we didn't even have smart contracts yet. I don't know if you guys remember that. And then we had the DEADPXLZ, which is insane, right? It was 100% Vegas approved, okay? It was a casino experience, and it was unreal, right? So what do you think about the current situation when it comes down to how much attention projects put into the user experience, right? Because to me, it just elevates everything, and it makes everything so much more special. I want to see what you guys think in terms of that. Do you guys think that is there enough attention being put into the user experience, or do you think we can do a better job? And what do you think we can do in terms of, you know, UX and all that?
We could definitely bring it to the next level. I think we don't see the user experience yet, like the full experience. Right now, most drops are like just send money here and you get your NFT in your wallet, but that's like kind of boring. And minting NFTs themselves are quite easy. It's very cheap, and of course you have the art, which was a lot of work, but the minting process itself is, if you just put out an address and send there, or just click a button and you receive your NFT, it's quite boring. So if this whole project is about art and yeah, so you want to maybe like pack that in some great experience and make the minting experience itself very interesting, and it kind of like changes many things for the project. And yeah, the idea with the rocket was, yeah, basically just like it wasn't necessary, but it really changed something. People were when I talked to some holders, some Spacebudz holders, they were like, yeah, I like Spacebudz because the minting experience, it was so great. I liked it a lot with the rocket.
It's a connection with the experience,
exactly.
right?
There's a connection to it, and the same thing with Pixels. It was probably the only other NFT I ever minted because it was so interesting what he did. It was cool, and of course because he was using Nami.
It was amazing.
No, I mean, yeah, I remember Nami has played a huge role in minting pixels.
I have a question for that, so
Okay,
don't let me
okay,
forget because
I'll forget about it for now. Okay. But yeah, no, I was just trying to express my gratitude and the fact that it was such a huge coincidence that Nami came out when it did, because that's how we started talking and we started sort of like getting close to each other via Nami, because I had a million questions, a ton of things that I wanted to clear out with you when you first launched it. Because otherwise, I would have been forced to build my own native solution for that. And so you shaved off a lot of time off my plate with Nami, and I'm sure you shaved off a lot of time off of a lot of other developers' plate. So yeah, huge round of applause for Alessandro.
Nami.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have a little follow-up there, Jack, because you brought that up, right? When Nami was released, it was really hard to get the concept around the community. Back then, we were still using Yoroi and Daedalus, which was very basic wallets, no connection with NFTs, right? So you were about to do your drop, Adrian, right? And then Nami came out. And you actually undid a lot of your platform to integrate it, because you right away, you didn't have a problem understanding that your experience was going to be elevated just by integrating that. Even though you had a little flashback from community members saying, why do I have to have this wallet?
Yeah, no, there was a bit of resistance when it came
Yes.
to introducing Nami to the world, because I feel like Pixels was one of the first projects to actually integrate it. Although it wasn't an actual dApp, because we didn't have smart contracts back then, it was a dApp-like experience. So what we did is we wanted to just give users the ability to sort of not blindly just send ADA into the into the ether. And I'm talking about the actual ether, not but. And that's what I always set out to do, is just give you the actual like shopping spree experience that you need as a user, as well as introduce the project in a proper manner, because the way that people see you obviously reflects either well or bad upon the future of your project, and the way that you introduce yourself to the world matters a lot, because let's face it, first opinions are very hard to change with time. So that was the rationale behind it. Obviously, wanted to make a fun experience out of it, and I'm a huge fan of the IKEA mentality, where the business model is quite brilliant, because you actually get more attached to things that you build, that you put work into actually getting, versus just ordering furniture online and having somebody put it together in your house. So I feel like a lot of the Pixel community's core strength draws from the actual mint experience, from the fact that they fraternized, they got together, they socialized. Like they were like in season 2, there was six days, day and night. People were in the Discord talking about the chain not moving. So it's amazing, and friendships were formed, and people to this day who have stuck with the project and are still active in the Discord and in the community, and I'm very grateful to you guys for like being there. So yeah, you guys are the best. Yeah.
And speaking on Nami Wallet, basically forcing people to use Nami Wallet for DEADPXLZ, something like that. I was wondering what your guys' thoughts are on onboarding people to what we have now versus building new stuff to bring users into the ecosystem and, things that actually benefit their lives. And what do you think is more important?
So in a nutshell, what's the question?
Basically, do you think it's more important to onboard new people or build new things to bring in new people?
I think at this point it's more important to focus on building. But I mean, it depends on what kind of people we onboard. If we just onboard end users, it's probably not the best idea at this point. We have enough people in the ecosystem right now to actually build everything necessary to get us to the next level. but yeah, I think we should really focus on what matters, like the fundamental stuff, build up our ecosystem silently, and when we're there, when we're ready, we get these people in, and it probably will happen naturally anyway. So if you just focus on what's important, what matters, deeply think about it, people will come, and basically the like-minded people, the people you want, and yeah, then you build something pretty robust, something that actually works.
If, do you have anything to say? Or?
Well, I've always been a big fan of the, it doesn't matter if you built it necessarily, but it matters how you built it.
Yeah.
So it could be, things are getting built on a daily basis on Cardano and on all other blockchains and everywhere in the world. But the point here is not to just build, but to build something which is useful. It solves a problem, and it's either never been done before or hard to copy. That's, those are key ingredients of building a good product, and a product which, incidentally, people will use. If you tick those boxes, people will use your stuff, and not the other way around. So yes, we do need to keep building good products, usable products, but we also need to start looking, as you mentioned earlier, at the end user. Because right now in our community, most people here are investors. They're not end users. It's like, I don't know, Tesla would have held a convention and everyone who showed up owned Tesla stock. That doesn't happen today. If Tesla hosts a keynote, then people come in there because they're interested in the product, but they don't necessarily hold stock in Tesla. So there's a clear differentiation which I feel like we're not fully aware of in the space, is that the people who are going to be using the product that you're building today are not necessarily your investors, but people that you need to address somehow outside of the space and outside of the ecosystem. And I feel like we need to seriously start looking at how we are going to onboard new people from outside of Cardano into Cardano, rather than just cannibalizing each other's market caps in terms of like projects launching on the same sort of sector, either it's NFTs or DeFi and so on.
Well, I have kind of like a follow-up for what we were talking about before, because I find that we, just by being here, we're all pioneers, right? We're like in this world that the majority of the world does not even understand yet, right? But yet, even though we take a leap of faith and we get so interested into this new technology that's revolutionizing the systems that we know today, yet we are still not so easy into adopting new things. And you see it such in like things like Nami wallet, right? That was like, we don't need this, we don't need this. And it was like, what do you think? What do you guys think that we have such a resistance to new, like CIPs or new wallets or new things like that, even though we are pioneers, like, how does that work? Where do you think that comes from? And what do you think we can do, or you can tell people the importance of keeping an open mind in this space when it comes down to, new things are going to be put in front of us?
I think the issue is like people don't like change, and it's not always easy for others to see what the idea or the vision of someone is, if you like haven't seen it yet, like fully. So people are always in denial. They're like, oh no, this is not going to work. But maybe they misunderstand it. They miss the whole context behind it, and sometimes, maybe yeah. As you say, people should have a more open minds and just accept new ideas easier, and that's very important, because then we can move much faster, get things like ideas executed much faster, and it's kind of like I realized that with Nami when I created initially, that I was like, I'm gonna go with a single address because there's no point in having multiple addresses. It didn't make any sense to me. It was a standard, but I was like, it has no sense because when Cardano introduced proof of stake, all the addresses you have in your wallet are tied to the same stake key, so the whole anonymity is basically gone. There's no reason for having that anymore. It just adds an extra complexity to your wallet. And I was like, let's just leave it out. And everyone was pissed initially about that, but I was like, I think it's gonna work out much better long term. And now I see more wallets supporting it. Of course, the multi-address thing is still a thing, but I see the trend is going more into single address because it's easier to prove ownership, and just for the users, like, okay, one address, it's easy to understand. And yeah, sometimes it just takes time, but of course would be nice if we as an ecosystem are more open to new ideas and just support these things.
You know, we could get into the nitty-gritty technical things. I'd love to do that, but I think we'd rather do it privately rather than on stage. But circling back to Jenny's original question, I feel like we do have a responsibility to make people aware that we exist, that we're here, that this is happening. You know, I landed in Vegas. The first thing that the customs dude asked me was, "What are you here for?" And I said, "I'm going to a cryptocurrency conference." And he asked me, "Oh, was that still a thing?" You know, so that's the impression that, you know, the average individual has. Now, I'm not saying it's, you know, good. Obviously, market is not at its best right now. But what I'm saying is, there's only so much convincing that you can do by going to people and saying, "Hey, look, this is the blockchain. It can do this, this, and this." We can talk about that for as long as we want. I feel like the supreme thing that can convince people into coming over is creating something which is so undeniably good and inevitable that people just have no choice than to use it. I'm sure that, you know, nobody convinced people who are sitting at candlelight to switch to the light bulb. Nobody convinced people who are, you know, walking in carriages to switch to the car, you know? So I feel like product is key. Good product and good use cases are key into bringing people over into the blockchain rather than just evangelizing the hell out of it and just preaching constantly in like this echo chamber of people who are like either invested in blockchain technology and thus have become maximalists, or people who are like completely non-technical and don't even know what blockchain is. You know, for most people, it's like a Ponzi scheme. It doesn't have to do anything. Nobody will remember that. Nobody cares about that. Yeah. You just need to build a product or products which changed lives. That's it. That's key.
And
yeah.
Would you say that a lot more people focus right now on, say, going to Ethereum and taking their users and bringing them over to Cardano versus trying to find new users who haven't even been in a cryptocurrency, right? Stuff like that.
Well, as I said, communities like to cannibalize themselves, and that's not necessarily. I mean, it's good for creating competition, and it incentivizes innovation and moving the space forward and so on. But like, I don't feel like it's necessarily. At some point, it needs to stop. I mean, there's a certain limit that, you know, you can go on Twitter and have endless Twitter talks, and I'm sure after, you know, everybody shook everyone's hand here, we're going to get back to our computers and, you know, get back to that same, you know, daily grind. But that's not what it's about, and people just lose focus of the big thing, which should be, you know, looking forward to a future where we could coexist rather than just go against each other or cannibalize our communities or just bring users over from there to there. And, you know, there's a million reasons why Ethereum people think Ethereum is good, a million reasons why Cardano people think Cardano is good. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter for the majority of users, for like the, you know, the ideal end user.
And you and Alessandro have been building on Cardano for 2 years or a year and a half, however long now. What do you think that, or how would you explain that grind to someone who isn't in Cardano or isn't in a cryptocurrency, and why do you do it?
Why?
Yeah.
Why Cardano?
Or why Cardano and why are you building on Cardano?
I think Cardano is very interesting because it really took the ideas from Bitcoin and Ethereum. I looked at it and was like, okay, how can we do it better? Like, Bitcoin did a few things right, used the UTXO model. Ethereum introduced smart contracts, which Bitcoin is missing. Bitcoin has proof of work. And Cardano was like, okay, we can make this more efficient. We could have all the programmability with smart contracts. We can also have governance, and we can try to scale the system. These are like the key features. They were very important. And of course, the approach was to say, okay, let's do it like first principles. Let's try to make it, let's build it right. Let's build it as something that lasts, maybe at the next, or still exists in the next 10, 20, 30 years, whatever, and try to build something that is actually useful. And that like kind of hooked me into this whole Cardano thing. And I don't see this kind of philosophy in the other blockchain, blockchain world, cryptocurrencies. I think Cardano is something, very unique in that respect, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I support it.
How about you, Adrian?
Well, I think, Alessandro, you put it very, very well. And what he's trying to say is the fact that we don't need to, I feel like we need to onboard developers onto Cardano rather than just, random people. I feel the primary focus of onboarding people onto Cardano should be developers. And he said it's mostly technical. Like for me personally, as a developer, the reason why I came to Cardano is when I saw the tech and fell in love with it. There's obviously the Charles Whitehorse video, that's most people's entry, or used to be. But, after that, you look into the tech and you look into the white papers and you look into the, huge number of academically peer-reviewed papers. And you start to believe that this technology is being built from the ground up with, something great in mind. And that's, hot for a developer. And that's what got to me. But if you'd go to like a regular person and tell them about the UTXO model, they wouldn't understand. There's obviously the investor's perspective, which is part of the entire scenario, the entire engine that keeps it's basically the oil in the engine, but the cogs in the engine are the developers. So I feel like you've been working, Alessandro's been working on a lot of ways to improve the developer user journey on Cardano, and that I am appreciative of it, and I'm sure everybody who's used your code, who's used your repositories is appreciative of it. And that's what we need. We need new developers onboarded onto the space because they make things from nothing that other people use.
Don't make the products, but bring on the users.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, so there's a philosopher, modern philosopher, Hegel, which we have a lot of him within Cardano and everything that we've been building. And he used to, he didn't believe in such a thing as art for the sake of art. He believed that art was the sensuous representation of our ideas, that art helped us connect with ideas to make something a reality. And to me, NFTs are pretty much that, right? We have the developer side that is connecting with their creative side, and then you get the art side that's connecting with their developer side to be able to like converge, right? You started here your journey because of the tech side. You're both tech, and now both of you are creating art, right? You do art with your code. I consider that to be art, and I know a lot of artists here, so many, are now getting into the developer side of things so they can get their art, the functionality that we want to see behind it. Can you just like briefly, because we don't have that much time, just Tell me a little bit about your journey with that. How do you feel? Do you feel that connection to your artistic side more now thanks to NFTs?
Yeah, so originally I got into NFTs because of my co-founder, Zeke, of Spacebudz. But yeah, as you said, I was always very much into technical stuff, but yeah, I also realized that it's kind of art because how you write the code, what it can do, and basically, why do you laugh?
No, I was just saying that my neck hurts. I'm looking at you for so long. Sorry, never mind me.
Okay, so I lost it.
We're saying that what brought you here when Spacebudz, you were just doing technical stuff. And then because of Spacebudz and berries and all this journey that you've been into, you've gotten more into the creative side of things that goes outside of code, right?
Yeah.
But it's with code. You're making code.
Yeah, so it's not really outside, but
exciting things, not just code being code. There's like bringing code to life.
yeah, I mean, I'm like working on both sides. I'm a front-end guy and I'm a back-end guy. Basically, Cardano forced me to go back-end because I had to learn about it to actually create the experience people want to have. And without going deep down there, the experience would be okay, but it would not be great, and realize that. And so yeah, code kind of like is art as well, especially if you yeah, make it all open source, try to give it to the people, and yeah, just
Do you consider that art? Do you consider it art?
kind of. I mean, I kind of like sell it also. I mean, if I create this experience, make it all open source, I kind of like sell this experience, and people can reuse it as well. Like it's art also in some way. Yeah.
What about you, Adrian?
Well, it depends what people understand through art. I feel like the classic meaning of art is like obviously, like the classic sense that the word artist has. But in terms of like, I've been on the other side as well because I've done, I've used to be a musician as well, not in my spare time, like not full time. And I know how that feels from the other end of the other side of things, right? And I know for a fact that artists, even established artists, wish that they knew about engineering and about developing. And I know for a fact that the developers, you wish they knew how to draw or how to compile art. But what's funny is that they're both actually doing it in their own ways. Developing is just another form of expressing your inner creativity and just building something from nothing. Hopefully the thing that you built has either a use or it has some sort of impact on someone. It touches somebody's life. And I feel like that, regardless of the medium that you express it through, that can be called art in a way. So yeah, I completely agree with the fact that you're sort of kind of building something that is, can be art, yeah.
And not to sound like cultish or anything, but kind of wondering what you guys think about people who aren't developers, people who aren't, YouTubers or whatever else, and what do you think someone else's experience in the space can be as building something on Cardano and cryptocurrency, and do you think that really anyone can come in here and add something of their own artistic flair?
Well, of course. I mean, it depends what they want to achieve. There's a lot of avenues. I mean, this year has been fully packed with services going online with, allowing any, non-technical person a means to actually put their product out there. So I think it's quite easy to, if you search for Cardano NFTs on Google, I'm sure one of the very first results is one page which allows you to mint an actual NFT. So in that regard, I feel like we've been making a lot of progress as opposed to last year, for example, where we got introduced to NFTs on Cardano. It was more like a learning curve that we had to go through as a community as a whole.
What was the question again?
It's a bit hard to understand from
I
here.
gotta I was just asking if you think that anyone who's not a developer could come into the space and add something to Cardano in just any way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole point in some way. We make it all open source, and then people can come in, take it, do whatever they want to. I mean, it's an open system where people can do whatever they want to. That's like the whole idea, and that's how we can basically accelerate the whole development of the chain. It's just like, how do you open source it? Of course, just putting code there is not optimal. You have to have documentation, the code needs to be written well, and of course, it needs to be like understandable. And then if this is the case, then more people will show up and do something.
We don't have much time left, but I want to ask you both something. Have you guys considered collaborating on any project together?
We've talked about it, I feel
Yeah.
like several times, but you never know.
Yeah? So we're going to get to see something?
I'm pretty sure, but
That sounds
we
good.
had like,
We're probably going to wrap up
Take
soon.
it away, Jack.
We're probably going to wrap up soon, but just to conclude, seems like we've kind of found an area where Cardano should probably onboard more developers to make more products to bring in more users. Something like that sound right?
Right about right, yeah.
And maybe now that there's more people here, we're going to do one last poll for DEADPXLZ versus Spacebudz. So if you like DEADPXLZ, just raise your hands right now. And if you like Spacebudz, raise your hand now. All right. Thank you guys so much
I
for
call
coming.
it even. I call it even.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tie. It's definitely a tie.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Hope
And
you
what
catch you
about
guys
for
later.
both of them?
Oh, both.
Both of them.
Woo.
There you go. Thank you guys so much. All right, that's it for us.